I chose to write about topic 5, which was how Joanna Russ's 1995 book, How to Write Like a Woman, on the chapter Someone's Trying to Kill Me and I Think It's My Husband, is relevant to Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre and the Fulbright Company's Gone Home in accordance with the genre of Gothic romance. Russ's reading was based on what modern Gothic is and why it's so popular in today's society. She states that modern Gothics are read by middle-class women or women with middle-class aspirations, meaning that the genre is appreciated by everyday women who want that escape route to get away and adventure into a world that is somewhat familiar to them, however has a whole other side to it altogether, with twists and turns and what she calls the elements that make up modern Gothic. Russ states that modern Gothics are a direct expression of the traditional feminine situation and that they provide precisely the kind of escape reading a believer in the feminine mystique needs, without involving elements that either go beyond the feminine mystique or would be considered immoral in its terms. The elements of the modern Gothic relate to Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre and the Fulbright Company's video game Gone Home because of the way the heroine handles herself and the scenario in which she is in. For example, the first element that makes up the genre of the modern Gothic is that there is always a large, lonely house that sets up the scene for the story. In Gone Home, we are first introduced to this house because it is the first thing we see at the start of the game. There is something mysterious about it and haunted-like. We can tell it's clearly abandoned because there are no lights on and everything seems eerily still. In Jane Eyre, the house she is growing up in has a dark past and she feels out of place and spooked because it is not her own. It's her aunt's, who is just as cold and unwelcoming as the house. Another modern Gothic element is the fact that the heroine is young, unloved, lonely, shy, and inexperienced. In Gone Home, it is not Katie who is the heroine, even though we as the audience are looking at everything through her eyes and her perspective. It is her younger sister Sam who is the heroine, trying to figure out who she really is and finding her way through the world. In the novel by Jane Bronte, Jane is an orphan who grew up not knowing anything about her parents, and therefore is left to defend for herself and avoid the misery cast upon her by her cruel aunt. One of the main elements that make up the modern Gothic genre is the heroine falling in love with someone that they shouldn't, or that is not acceptable within the society that they live in. However, they can't help the powerful magnetic pull between them. For Sam in Gone Home, she falls for a senior from her school named Lonnie, and this frightens her because no one knows she's a lesbian and she's scared how her family will take that. As for Jane Eyre, she falls for her employer, a dark, impassioned man named Mr. Rochester. These feelings that both characters are feeling scare them because they are unsure whether or not these feelings are true or if their desired ones love them back. Russ claims that the commonmost emotion throughout these novels/video games is fear. In these kind of texts, there is always the other woman who appears smarter, more beautiful, someone everyone looks up to, and that the heroine feels as though they can't compete with. In Gone Home, the other woman is Sam. The other woman to Sam is her older sister Katie. This is shown throughout the game when there are flashbacks of Katie sending postcards from around the world where she travelled, studied, and did everything that her parents were proud of. However, for Sam, she is struggling in school, her grades weren't looking up, and the stress of making new friends was too much. In Jane Eyre, the other woman was Mr. Rochester's wife Bertha, who she never knew existed until she found out on her wedding day. Even though Bertha was claimed mad and insane, Jane felt as though Rochester had been manipulative this whole time by lying to her, just to get his way. Both females in both contexts become the heroine's double and at the same time their opposites. Mr. Rochester keeping his first marriage to Bertha a secret is one of the commonly modern Gothic elements, which is that there is always a buried, ominous secret. For Gone Home, it was that Sam was in love with another girl, and coming out and telling the world was not something that was known back in the 1990s. Therefore, Sam felt she had to keep it a secret and not let anyone know. Russ clarifies by stating that sexuality itself provides enough threat and how modern Gothics are surprisingly conservative about sexuality, yet the sexuality that does appear in them is of a very prurient kind. She also goes on to say that the emotional centre is that it is the heroine's ambivalence towards the super male, in this case being Mr. Rochester and Lonnie, that provides the internal dramatic action of the book. Their forbidden feelings is what makes heads turn and hearts beat. Overall, as Russ states, the modern Gothic as a genre is a means of enabling a conventionally feminine heroine to have adventures at all. Whether it be through a video game or a classic text, the elements that are within the story and make up its backbone is what holds everything together.